For anybody who's interested, what is the name of that video that you put out?
I think it's the ancient structure, like it's said to be greater than the pyramids. I try to tease it a little bit,
Yes.
but it's on my channel. I mean,
Well, it was a good tease. You got me.
Thank you.
I dove right in, and I remember I was in the gym while I was watching it, and I literally stopped working out. I was like, okay, I got to pause this because this is not something that I can consume while I'm working out. I need to like really pay attention to this because it's so wild.
Yeah, and I honestly that I'm grateful for how like that video took off. Like for me, it took off way bigger than ones that I've done in the past. I talked about the labyrinth in the past, and it's a much longer video. And I was really glad to get the chance to dive into these details because I've been wanting to revisit the labyrinth for a long time. However, there's just been recently a bunch of new data that came up about things that happened a decade or two ago, or inside the last decade that really changed that picture. And it was things like the Merlin Burrows scans that correlated other scans and also reported on, there seems to be a metallic object down there. And this isn't sort of crazy emerging science. This is a legitimate company that is using technology that's been well established in defence and in the UK defence. It came out of the UK military as a technology that's been more or less proven. So, and the guy that Tim Akers, rest in peace, unfortunately he's since passed, but he, what he said about this object, like he is a credible guy to say this. He doesn't draw conclusions about what it might be, but it's not wood, it's not stone, it's metal. It's not unlike other metal that he's seen, although they couldn't classify what exact type of metal it is. But he said, there is in this central atrium, because the labyrinth has multiple levels, and it's almost like imagine yourself standing in a shopping mall, and you have that central atrium where you can see all these levels, and it's like this big central chamber that connects to these multiple levels. It's open. It's at least 40 meters long. It's really tall, and in the center of it is what's more than 40 because it contains this single sort of 40 meter long object that's sitting in there.
So how did you find out about the labyrinth? Like this is something that has been talked about for a long time.
Thousands of years.
Yeah, but no one, it's not in any like traditional archaeology books. It's not.
It is.
Is it?
Yeah. No, it is. So the labyrinth is kind of, this is the other part that drew me to it, is that it isn't something that's coming out of left field, right? It's not like this, no one ever heard of this before. It's literally a structure that was written about extensively over hundreds of years in antiquity by authors like Herodotus, Diodorus Siculus, Pliny the Elder, Strabo, Polonius Mela. Like there's all of these writers of antiquity, and you're talking about time frames from like 500 BC up to the 1st century AD, had visited it, and they'd written about it and talked about it, and they gave it this legend. Guys like Herodotus said that it surpasses the pyramids in grandeur, and then you have, so this is from Herodotus's Histories in the 5th century BC, and he says, "For this I saw myself, and I found it greater than words can say. For if one should put together and reckon up all the buildings and all of the great works produced by the Hellenes, the Greeks, they would prove to be inferior in labour and expense to this labyrinth." So he's saying that all of the temples of the Greeks, of ancient Greece, you've been there, you've seen the Acropolis, and just if you added them all up, the labour to produce them would be inferior in what it would take to just make this one thing in Egypt, the labyrinth.
That is underground.
That's underground, right.
How do conventional archaeologists approach this? Do they discuss this at all?
Yeah, so they do. It's been discussed. What happened was, so you had... we always kind of knew where it was. So, you have the classical authors of antiquity, which coincides with what you might call the Ptolemaic period of ancient Egypt. It's the transition from dynastic Egypt into becoming essentially a Roman province, like an imperial province of Rome. And that runs you up to about, 400 or 500 AD. And then sort of, civilization we have the Dark Ages, sort of have Roman Empire collapses. And it's not until, again, you get to the Renaissance and you have artists and other authors are looking at these historical accounts and they're talking about it, they're drawing it. Some of the depictions you see from the labyrinth are in that. And then again, not until the emergence of what I would call modern archaeology in the 18th century. So guys like Carl Lepsius in the 1700s started to look at these accounts and go and survey the place where they said it was. So, Herodotus and these authors, I selected the quotes here to just, there's a lot more that they say about it. But one of the things they talk about is they kind of give descriptions of where it is. They say it's near what was called Lake Moeris. and it's near a city that was the temple of the crocodiles, Crocodilopolis, or ancient Arsinoe is the other name for it. And we know where that is. And Lake Moeris sort of somewhat still exists. It's much smaller now, but it's in this region called the Fayum of Egypt. So if you ever look at Egypt on a map, you can imagine it's desert, and you have from north to south, you have this green line of the Nile, traces it down. But on the left side, you look at, there's this leaf-shaped depression that's all green. It's called the Fayum. It's a depression which used to flood with the Nile. Today they use it for agriculture. And it's right at that neck of the Fayum where it connects up to the Nile Valley. And he also described it, they also described the pyramid that's at the site, because there is the pyramid to Amenemhat III on that site. So they give us all these descriptors, and everyone kind of agreed, yeah, so it's at this place called Hawara, where I've been to several times. There's still a pyramid there, and there's these great fields of sand and like little open-air libraries with chunks of stone. And what happened was, so Carl Lepsius went there, and he said, well, I've discovered the ruins of like a Roman town that's built on the surface. There's nothing crazy about it. Flinders Petrie was the guy who kind of got the closest. Now, Petrie went there in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and he was excavating. He dug down 7 or 8 meters. He got down and he found this massive stone slab of beton or plaster that was huge, like 1,000 feet long. Like it was he sort of traced the edges of it, and he's like, I'm standing on the foundation of the labyrinth. So what he said, he's like, it's all gone. Like it's basically, Petrie said, it's been quarried. This place has been a source of stone for literally millennia. So it's gone. So pretty much everyone since then in archaeology, Egyptology is like, and if you look on Wikipedia, they'll tell you, oh, it's gone. It was destroyed, was quarried away. Petrie says, you know, I'm standing on the foundation of it, the bottom layer, and that's it. There's nothing here. And so that's always been kind of the position of orthodox Egyptology. Look in the textbooks, that's where it is. But that's all changed because there's been a whole bunch of different now scientific expeditions there. This is where it gets into some intrigue, because the Matahar expedition, the Cairo University expedition, I mean, these happened. Their results have come out since, but they were covered up at the time. They were suppressed. So the first guy to
What year was this?
2008 was the Matahar expedition.
They were covered up.
Yes. Yeah. So what?
Is this our boy Zawi?
Yeah, Zahi. It is.
Zahi. Sorry,
it was. And look,
Zawi.
and again, not my words. This is the words of Louis de Cordier, he's a Belgian artist and entrepreneur who funded and drove the Matahar expedition. He did it in conjunction with the Supreme Council of Antiquities, which at the time was helmed by Zahi Hawass. Also with the NRIAG, which is the National Research Institute for like basically subsurface studies. So that's those guys dragging that box around. So they used a whole bunch of different techniques to look at these areas around that pyramid at the site of Hawara, things like ground-penetrating radar, geomagnetism, very low frequency, like seismic tomography, electrical resistivity tomography. There's a bunch of different techniques that are well established. Known science. This isn't like the Kafre scan stuff where it's like you can debate the merits of the technology. This is established technology. And they found the labyrinth. And what he found is that, yes, so what Lepsius said about the ruins of a Roman or Greek or Persian town with mud bricks and stuff, yep, that's there in the first few meters. You go down, then you hit the water table. So that's the other issue on this site is the water table. So the water's at like 5 meters below the surface. And under that is the slab that Petrie found. So like 6-7 meters is at that huge slab that Petrie found that he thought was the foundation. And then below that, Petrie didn't dig deep enough. Below that, we can find essentially a labyrinthian structure of granite and very, very dense rocks and walls and like a maze-like structure that has walls that are meters thick. There's another great slide in there that's the green, and it's the actual VLF, right? That's it there. So yeah, so this is at 8 meters with VLF sounding, so you can see like this labyrinthian structure of these walls and all of these lines and walls. So these are like granite, and the scale of this, it's 100 meters vertically by 150 meters.
100 meters tall.
Well, no, so
vertically?
No, so the y-axis, I guess, of this. So we're looking down in the ground here, but you got to look at the scale. Like across the top, that's 150 meters, right? So, I mean, what, 450 feet? So these are big walls. These are big chambers and big walls.
For people at home, it's like a football field.
Yeah, it's a football field. Well, it's more. I mean,
100 meters.
I mean, in Australia, it's my 100 meters is the football field, I think. I don't know how big.
Yeah,
pretty close
it's 100
here.
yards. What is the difference between 100 yards and 100 meters?
It's 100 yards is a little less. Little less. So 150 meters, and this is only a section of the labyrinth. They scanned 2 sections The labyrinth itself is said to be much, much larger than this. So they found...
Much larger than that.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah, no,
So what is the overall structure? Like,
it's like 1,000 feet at least.
Wow.
Like 3, 4, 5 times that size. I mean, you have to go back to the... We have some better indication with the more modern space-based scans now, but when they did those, the geophysical, like the ground-penetrating radar scan, so they scanned 2 areas. That was the bigger one, like in front of the pyramid. Then they did another one on the other side of the canal that runs through the site today, and they found it on both sides. So that's the difference between like what we say about the lab, like what the textbooks will tell you about the labyrinth, it not being there and it being destroyed, to no, we've actually, now there's been the Matterhorn expedition confirmed it was there. And so what happened, this was interesting, and I have, I think, reasoning for why this happened, but it was covered up. And these are the words, like Louis de Cordier, he eventually got sick of waiting, because what happens in Egypt, anything you do, whether it's you're an academic institution or you're an individual or a group that's funding some sort of expedition, you work with the Council of Antiquities. Today it's the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. But they essentially, it takes years to get access. And then once you do, though, they control release of information. So that's always part of the deal, right? It's that Egypt gets to do the announcing, and if and when they choose.
And they have dismissed things in the past that they then accepted later.
Yeah, a great example is the Scan Pyramids project. So they got ahead of themselves a little bit. This is the muon detection, the cosmic ray detection stuff. They've been running that experiment for years at Giza in the Great Pyramid. They and every time I go in there, there's always different sets of equipment at different places on it. But these muon detectors, they have them under the ground and in the Grand Gallery, and it just takes years to collect data. Occasionally, these cosmic particles, they'll pick one up, and you're able to detect voids, or they can somehow tell the difference between it traveling through solid matter versus a void. It takes years to build up a resolute picture. But once they did, they said, oh, okay, so we've discovered that big void in the pyramid, but they'd also discovered the small void at the main entrance. If you look up at it today, there's those chevron blocks. Like above, you go in down here at the Al Mamoun's tunnel, but at the top where the descending passage actually exits the pyramid, the original entrance, there's these big chevron blocks, and behind that's that chamber. So you remember a few years ago they made a big fuss. And as an example, like when the Scan Pyramids guys on their own initiative announced that we've made these discoveries, I mean, Zahi basically came out and said, this is bullshit, this doesn't exist. There's nothing there, and if there is something there, we knew about it already. And you go on a couple of years, and when now it's time to do the press releases and to roll out, the footage. And who's standing at the podium making the announcement and showing the footage. Zahi's doing it. Like
he has to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating situation over there with him.
Yes. I did a video. I just released it a few days ago that got into some even more intrigue about stuff that's happened at Giza at the Giza Plateau in the 1990s, which we can get into that too. But so yeah, what happened with the Matterhorn expedition and the labyrinth was that 2008 and 9 they finished their on-site work. They're ready to release the data. They put on a very small public lecture at Ghent University in Belgium. No one really attended it. And then they got told to stop. And again, in the words of Louis de Cordier, because he waited like 2 or 3 years and then he put this out there, he said that he was told to cease any and all discussion or release of information from the Matterhorn project, and him and his team members were threatened with national security sanctions from Egypt, which means that, I think at the low, like if you come to Egypt, we'll arrest you, and if not, when maybe we'll come and get you. I don't know. It's national security sanctions.
Isn't there a way to sort of massage that situation and to talk to Zahi and say, listen, you can be the guy who found this?
That would have been the case. I think that was a given if it had been released. I actually think in the case, so it's funny. I kind of don't really blame him so much. I think this was a political decision, not so. People say, it's hiding the truth and whatever. Yeah, okay, that's happening. There's new data. There's an amazing find that could change the world. In my opinion, honestly, the labyrinth is the biggest archaeological discovery of the millennium. When we get into what that structure is and how big it is and the way it's reported in antiquity, there's nothing bigger than, Herodotus says it surpasses the pyramids. It's like finding more Giza, like a Giza plateau somewhere.
Under the ground.
Under the ground. You can't, I just think it would be the biggest discovery of the millennium, which is part of the problem.
So how did Ancient Aliens, that show that you did, you getting high watching Ancient Aliens, how'd that even start?
Vice was about to fucking take over the History Channel.
And they just needed content?
No. I was like, yo, you guys are fucking bugging. You're not taking this off. This has to stay. like, yo, Ancient Alien, this comes with Vice. Like, this is now going to be transferred. And they were like, I don't know if we could do it. So I had to go and speak to the homie who invented it. He gave me his blessings. I sat with him for like 4 hours. He was talking shit to me, whatever. Convinced him. I was like, yo, this is not a joke. Like, everything is tongue-in-cheek and ridiculous, but this is how it makes us feel. I'm a proponent. I'm a believer. If I need to talk to Giorgio Tsoukalos, bring him here. Whatever. So he believed me, and he gave us the blessing. He didn't recently pass, but he passed a couple of years ago. And
well, who did? Giorgio?
No, not Giorgio, but the main creator. His name is fucking slipping.
Giorgio's the meme.
He's the meme, yeah. He's the hair.
I'm not saying it's aliens.
Nah, he's the hair.
But it's aliens.
But there's a lot of other sicko dudes on there that I like.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of people.
Von Erich, the guy who just died also.
Von Daniken?
Von Daniken, yeah.
Eric Von Daniken, yeah. I met him.
Really?
Yeah, my friend Eric Weinstein brought me to a lunch where he was at, and I had a chance to talk to him about what he believes and all this stuff. He was all in on the idea that aliens definitely came down here and built everything. I'm more of a believer that there was an ending of civilization and a rebirth of it, and that what we're looking at is some incredible technology that humans had invented a long fucking time ago, and that's what's responsible for all these structures that we don't understand. Like the ones in Mexico are crazy, man. They didn't know. They just uncovered those. I didn't know that until like not that long ago.
Yeah, these were.
I thought the Aztecs built all that shit.
Well, think about all these things that they're finding now. Like I've seen recently, like all these pyramids they're finding in Antarctica, and yeah, like.
Well, I know that there's one
these
mountain
or
that
in China
is odd looking.
Yeah,
no,
the odd looking nature of it. There's like domes and like points underneath.
It looks weird. That one looks weird. There's a bunch of them in the Amazon that look really weird.
Like when they do the LiDAR underneath the riverbed, there's like civilization under there. There's like true civilization in certain areas of the Amazon.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine, Luke Caverns, who goes and explores these things all the time. And we were actually just talking about one of them that I think is in Peru. I sent it to him and I asked him, I said, hey, is this legit? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. Not only is it legit, but you can't get there. Like, it's a really hard place to visit. It's almost impossible to get there, and no one's really looked into it in terms of, like, here it is. I found it.
So would they do it overhead?
Well, they have images of it, and you look at the image and you're like, whoa, what is going on here? Like, this is weird. Like the image here, I'm saying.
Like full civilization along the bank.
Well, it's in the middle.
The water.
I think it's deep in the jungle, and I think it's very difficult to get to. But the thing is, a lot of the jungle, a lot of the Amazon, a lot of this stuff is, there's areas where people don't necessarily know how many people were living there 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. It could have been like densely packed. Like, look at that.
That looks like a densely packed area with people.
What the fuck is that? Like, that does not look, that's the AI version. But go back to that. That's a real picture. Bro, that does not look natural at all. It doesn't match anything around it.
That's crazy.
It looks like something that someone built.
100%.
It doesn't mean that it's something that someone built, and it might just be that angle. Right? If you look at it from the other side, it might look like bullshit. But from that
no matter
angle
what,
right there,
there's angles of, there's isosceles right there. There's there's triangular situations going on. Like
they're saying, but it said in that image.
But it don't
that
look like it's 4 sides. It looked like 5 side. Boom, boom, boom.
It's hard to
boom,
say.
Boom.
No, it could be 4. It just could be 4. Because where it is, if you just reverse it, you just reverse what you're saying.
You're right.
So it says geologists referred to this formation as Cerro Elcano, attributing its sharp angles and pyramid-like structure to the slow, patient work of wind, rain, and erosion over countless centuries. Or someone built it. Like, if you're not exploring it and you're saying that this thing that looks just like a pyramid, you think it was made by by slow, patient work of wind and rain.
But there's no other rock around it. Why didn't the patience happen there? This is a straight up plain.
It doesn't make any sense.
This is a jungle plain.
That looks like a person built it. Those are right angles, and it's covered with bushes. So you got to think, like, what did it look like when it? And they haven't gone and checked it out. I'll tell you what Luke said to me, because Luke is actually an expert in this stuff. This is what he does. He goes and visits these places. And he was telling me, it's like, this stuff is so strange because there's a bunch of these kind of structures that are in the jungle. All of them haven't been explored, and there's a lot of resistance. He says it's deep in uncontacted tribe land. There's a small river that can get you within the 25-mile mark. He said it's crazy out there. So it's just like you just have a really difficult time in getting to it. I mean, there's a river that can get you within 25 miles of it. Like, okay.
And then what?
And then you got to walk through the jungle, 25 miles to get there. What does it look like on Google Earth?
Out in the middle of nowhere.
What does it look like, though? Get
Well,
that.
I mean, I'm just showing like the.
I know, but
the
get that
vastness.
stupid little dot off of
It's
it,
right at the border of Peru and Brazil.
bro. What's under there? I want to know what's under there. Boy, that does look like a fucking pyramid, man. That looks like a pyramid that's covered with bushes.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
They find all
Those are other
kinds
ones.
Yeah, look at that. It's in a similar line, and there's.
It looks like
three
it's
of
in
them.
a pattern of a star in the sky.
Right,
The
like
tree,
the Great
the
Pyramids
three,
are.
boom, 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 and then that.
Yeah, it's weird. Oh, here's another one. Did you see that they think that there's a second Sphinx in Egypt?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've done scans of this area where a second Sphinx would be, and there's something under the sand that's the size of a Sphinx. So
Would it be next to the original one?
It's in the same area, like the same area. So you have your pyramids, and then there's a Sphinx, and on the opposite side, there's another Sphinx.
But the Sphinx isn't the Sphinx. It was something else. The face was something else, right?
They think.
They think.
the face was a lion's face, and then
Well, like
pharaoh,
that dog, that like
a pharaoh
long
had a
dog, the long snouted dog that they have.
Could be. I don't think they think it's that, though. I think they think it's a lion. And so there's one exactly opposite of it.
I mean,
And so this one, what does it look like when they show that image, the scan?
I mean, I don't think there's anything there.
But what did the scan say?
I don't.
Would you scroll up? See, that's a scan. And it said something above it. It said, scans hinting at complex megastructure beneath the Giza Plateau. And so satellite images of the Giza Plateau reportedly captured this dune, which the signal processing researcher claims measures approximately 108 feet tall. The first Sphinx sits slightly below the surrounding surface in a shallow depression, so it's quite possible the second Sphinx could be hidden beneath this higher mound. So it's in the right position where a second Sphinx would be, because I think
Side
the
by side?
Sphinxes
would they be side by
appear-
side?
No, I don't think so. I think it's like the pyramids are in the center, Sphinx going that way, Sphinx going that way. I think that's the idea.
got
Does
it.
Sphinx appear in pairs more than once? Would they looking for it because that's a normal like setup? Like, what's the normal configuration of sphinxes? Yes, sphinxes frequently appear in pairs in ancient Egypt, Greek, and Roman art, often acting as guardians in pairs or long avenues at temple entrances rather than as solitary monuments like the Great Sphinx.
I mean,
which
that
makes
makes sense, right?
But they would-
if they're
those-
facing opposite ways, also, the one's guarding the exit,
Exactly.
one's both entrances.
Yeah, but they're
Exactly.
pretty far away from each other, though.
Right, but far in relative position to how far the Sphinx is from the pyramids in the first place.
Well, then we'd have to ask, like, do they appear in pairs far away from each other, not next to each other? Because that's sort of saying, like, they're guarding doors next to each
Well,
other.
there's
like two
guarding-
lions
I
and two
understand, but-
gargoyles and-
Or just entrances. If there's two entrances, you need them.
Well, let's put that into perplexity. Ask it when sphinxes appear in pairs, what is the configuration? What is the configuration? What configuration? So maybe it'll tell us there and give us. Maybe they are like right next to each other, and then this doesn't make any sense. In both Egyptian art and architecture, sphinxes very often appear in pairs, usually flanking an axis, such as a road, doorway, or staircase. Right, so like two in front of a doorway. Temple approaches, rows are pairs of sphinxes, commonly line the processional roads, with one on each side of the central path. So usually like on two sides of a door. Gateways and doorways, pair of sphinx, orientation idea. Modern popular writers often say one faces east and the other faces west. Okay, well, that's different.
That's what they would have found.
So it's possible that they did it in several different ways, but often in twos. So if they do have one big
probably
Sphinx and there's
4.
another,
I mean, there's
Yeah,
4 of them.
but it's pulling that from a Facebook post talking about this potential second one.
oh,
so it might have
interesting,
just made that up,
interesting.
too.
So it might be horse
Just
shit.
a grain of salt with it is all.
Right. We won't know until they get in there. But if it is there and it's just under sand, that's not that big of a deal because they had to uncover this one. When this
How long
one
does it take to excavate these things?
it'll take a while. I mean, it's a lot of sand.
Like,
But it depends on how many
10
workers,
years?
how many machines. Also, they have to do it carefully.
Oh, my, they
because you
can't
want to make
fuck-
sure you don't fuck up the Sphinx. But if there is a Sphinx under there, that would be fucking nuts. They found a second Sphinx and they dug it out and they're like, oh shit.
Look at that Sphinx.
Ooh,
The
titties.
lady's head.
With one titty.
the nurturer.
That's weird. What a weird head. Like it's got pointy ears, right? Are those ears pointy or is that just where the hair goes?
Hair,
How weird.
veil.
Right, maybe it was a chick. And they're like, nah, make it my
Except
face.
One big. It's like one big breast.
Yeah, one hard one.
The fucking arm is jacked.
Yeah, I don't like it. A little too much.
Yeah, I mean,
Take it down a
total
notch,
recall,
lady.
3 breasts if you want.
Yeah. Isn't it weird that we like 2, but we don't like 3?
Yeah, no, 3 is
3 is
fucking,
gross. Like,
because it's weird, that middle part. You want the separation natural. You don't want like a third. It's like a fucking
you know how
weird
hot
ornament.
a girl would have to be to pull off a third tit? They'd be like, I think I like it. I didn't like it when I first met her, but now I really like
do
it.
Why not? What is,
Why not? Why not?
Why not? If
Why
it's-
not?
If we're in the future, total recall.
But if it was normal to have 3 boobs, that's what we would like. That's what's
Yeah.
weird. Like the female shape, the desired female shape, like the fertility doll shape. It's very weird how that could have been a bunch of different shapes. Like for an ant, it's something a little honey on its ass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is what but this is also a thing. Why are we so obsessed with ass? I know I am obsessed with an ass, and shit comes from it. Like you shit
That's
horrible things from your ass, but yet I love looking at that ass,
People are complex.
and I dream of biting that ass. Like why? When I know fecal comes from it.
People are confusing. We're confusing to each other.
I'm confused at myself.
You should be.
I really am. But I love myself. Mike Tyson told me to never speak bad about myself because my subconscious doesn't know whether I'm joking or not.
Right. Ooh, that's wise.
I think he heard that from fucking Bruce Lee, though. I'm not gonna lie. I heard Bruce Lee say that on some shit recently. I was like, damn, Mike. And then I heard Bruce Lee say it.
There's something true to that, for sure.
There's no doubt.
No doubt. Yeah.
You know, I always call myself a jerk or a schmuck. I'm not.
What's this, Jamie?
I'm looking at the oldest known pictures of the Sphinx. to
This is
see
the
what it
oldest
looked
known?
like.
So part of it's still underground.
Somewhere around 1850 to 1860.
Wow.
I'm trying to find a year. This is actually 1892.
That's nuts.
But just it looks so strange.
The whole thing's so strange, man. That place is so old. Just even if you just go by what they think, which is 4,500 years ago they built this thing, that's so crazy.
Shit, they're
That's
getting
so
older.
fucking long ago.
Well, now they're gonna have fucking Rico Verhoeven and who else fight there, right? This is gonna
Oh,
be
yeah,
the
Usyk.
and Usyk and fucking Verhoeven fight there.
That's nuts.
That's kind of bugged out.
It is kind of bugged out.
But I like the idea of using
The backdrop.
the natural arenas, natural wonders arena. We should have it in Rome. We should have it,
By the way, it's hot as fuck out there.
it's in the sandstorms. How's this gonna
Right,
work?
What are they going to do?
How's this gonna work?
Right, what if there's a fucking sandstorm in the middle of the fight and they get sand in their eyes? They're just swinging blind.
They fucking tried to do it in Times Square. It was a mess.
Well, I think people can develop these patterns of behavior that are destructive with anything, whether it's with alcohol or cannabis or
Yes.
sex or anything. People get in ruts,
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean that the cannabis is bad. It means that you are on a bad mental path.
Yes,
exactly.
exactly.
And I'm not encouraging it for everybody because some people it genuinely biologically doesn't jive with them.
Yeah, yeah.
You
But
know.
the fundamental thing is we as adult human beings need to take responsibility for our own lives and our own decisions.
Yeah.
And we need not hand that responsibility over to governmental institutions, especially when it concerns something as intimate and personal as our consciousness. And my view is the ancient world had the right attitude to this kind of thing,
Yeah.
and the modern world does not, and that we can sit down and learn a lot from the ancient world. A lot of people ask me, You know, Hancock, you've been arguing that there's been a lost civilization in the human story. But what sort of civilization do you think it was? Well, one of the things I think is it was a civilization that used psychedelics. I think it was a civilization that emerged from shamanism, but did not stay at the hunter-gatherer stage, but that took the essence of shamanism and integrated it into a very different kind of civilization from our own, which pursued things in different ways. A lot of archaeologists have said to me, but we don't find any plastic bottles from the Ice Age. That means there was no advanced civilization during the Ice Age. Well, hang on. Maybe an advanced civilization might have decided never to get involved in plastic in the first place. Maybe there would have been a clear choice not to make plastic. Maybe they did things in completely different ways. Maybe they cultivated powers of the human mind that we dismiss and regard as completely unimportant. You know, woo-woo.
Yeah, this is the thoughts about Egypt, correct?
It's about Egypt and about other things. I mean, the specific example I give is above the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid are 5 further chambers. And these chambers are roofed and floored with granite beams that weigh about 70 tons each. And there are hundreds of them. And these 70-ton granite beams, which to put in context, a 70-ton beam is equivalent in weight to 35 large SUVs. These 70-ton granite beams have been elevated to a height of more than 350 feet above the ground and carefully and precisely placed in position. It is very hard for archaeologists to explain how that was done using purely leverage and mechanical advantage. You can say, oh, perhaps they built a ramp and hauled the stones up the ramp. But then you have to confront basic laws of physics. You can't haul a stone weighing tens of tons up a slope that exceeds 10 degrees. Then you start doing the calculation. How long a ramp do I need with a 10-degree slope to get to 350 feet above the ground? And the answer is you need a fucking long ramp, which should still be there.
Yeah.
Because it couldn't have been a sand ramp. It would have collapsed under the weight of those stones. It had to be as massive as the pyramid itself. So this begins to seem like an absurd idea, the idea that is foisted on us by archaeology. Maybe the idea that they regard as absurd, namely that psychic powers were cultivated by ancient civilizations, that they could use powers of the human mind that we have allowed to lapse, maybe that idea deserves further consideration. We have gone down a path of leverage and mechanical advantage. We're used to relying on machines, but we hear anecdotal reports of people who have telekinetic powers, who can move things with their minds, of people who have telepathic powers. And our automatic reaction is to just dismiss all of that because science says it's impossible, because science regards consciousness as local to the brain and doesn't see how it can exert itself outside of that. But maybe we should open up to those possibilities, that we're dealing with a very different kind of culture that used techniques that we have allowed to lapse. And maybe we could wake those techniques up again. Maybe the ability of human beings to do almost superhuman things is resident within all of us, but sleeping.
Well, it's pure speculation that they use some sort of a telekinetic power, but it's
pure
absolute,
speculation.
But it's absolute that they did something that we don't understand. If you think about the distance between us and the construction, just the modern accepted construction dates of the Great Pyramid, it's more than 5,000 years ago, or close to 5,000 years ago.
Great Pyramid is supposed to be about 4,500 years old, yeah.
That's really old.
It's incredibly old, yeah.
To think that someone back then could do something that would perplex us today with modern machinery.
Yeah.
And that somehow or another they figured this out. It's almost like what they had done was leave behind something that was so stupendous, so monstrously impressive that it would transcend time.
Yeah.
And that you would have to look at it even thousands and thousands of years later and say, hey, like this defies conventional explanation. This is not a simple, and I've seen some of the conventional explanations of the construction of the pyramid, and they conveniently neglect those chambers above the King's Chamber.
They do.
They conveniently neglect a lot of those massive stones.
Yeah.
And it's because it's one of those things you just go, oh, I don't know. What is this, Jamie?
There are the chambers
is,
above the King's Chambers, and each one of those floors consists of a row of 70-ton granite blocks that have been raised 350 feet above the ground. And not only that, but brought from Aswan in the south of Egypt, 500 kilometers south of the Great Pyramid. So
if there's any time in history where you could go in a time machine and go back and observe, would that be the time?
I am just completely fascinated by the Ice Age at the moment.
If you had one shot to go back and see what it was like in some place, you wouldn't go to the construction of the Great Pyramids?
I think right now where I'd go is 12,800 years ago in the beginning of the Younger Dryas.
Just to see.
Because I think that's where the whole human story changes. I think that's where we change tracks from one path to another path. And following those cataclysmic events of the Younger Dryas between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago, following those, the signs of civilization that we see emerging are not the beginnings of civilization. They're a restarting of civilization that had existed before the cataclysm. And for that reason, I would like to be present during that cataclysmic event, if only to satisfy myself that it was indeed a comet. You see, the one thing there's no dispute about anymore is that the Younger Dryas was a cataclysm. You can't argue about that. The megafauna that die off, the disruption of human activity that takes place at that time, the huge climate changes. This was a cataclysm by any standards. Where the argument still goes on is what caused the cataclysm. I vote strongly for comet, multiple fragments of a comet hitting the North American ice cap and hitting Greenland as well. But there are other researchers in the field, like my colleague Robert Schoch, who thinks that the sun is more involved. This is healthy. This is very, very healthy, that we should be approaching this problem from many different perspectives and trying to figure out what the fuck caused this extraordinary event that occurs at a pivotal moment in the human story. The end of the Stone Age, the beginning of the Mesolithic, the end of the Ice Age, the beginning of the current age of the Earth. And suddenly we see these signs of civilization appearing, and in places like Göbekli Tepe, those signs already include highly sophisticated knowledge. And that's why I feel we really need to investigate the Amazon. There are 3 places in the world which are really lacking in the investigation right now. One of them is the Amazon, 5.5 million square kilometers, very little archaeology done. Another is the Sahara Desert. The Sahara Desert, tough place to work. I can understand why there's little archaeology done there, but the Sahara Desert was green during the Ice Age. It had a completely different climate regime. We should consider the possibility that missing parts of the human story are there. And then under the continental shelves, because sea level rose 400 feet. These are 3 domains that archaeology has largely not investigated, and it has largely not done so. They say, well, why would we spend the money on marine archaeology? It's much better to spend it on looking for shipwrecks rather than looking for signs of a lost civilization, because we archaeologists know there was no lost civilization. So that's the argument for the resources there, and the same with the Amazon, and the same with the Sahara Desert. Very places in the world that those amongst us who are charged with the responsibility of interpreting the past have not looked at are the very places we should be looking at.
You are the man that was at the head of this research that is looking at structures that are underneath the bottom of the pyramid. And incredibly controversial, very fascinating, and if it's accurate, it essentially rewrites all of human history.
Yes. Thank you for this invitation. And yes, the group is composed by Corrado Malanga, which is the head of the group and the dean professor of chemistry at the University of Pisa.
Could you explain your background, please, so people will understand?
Yeah. Yes, my background is this. I am a telecommunication engineering. I graduate at the university.
What is that word again? Say it again.
Telecommunication engineering.
Telecommunications engineer. Okay. It's like your English is excellent, but the Italian accent, although fabulous, sometimes it's difficult to translate.
Thank you very much, Joe. I'm sorry, yes, that I'm not mother tongue of English.
It's still much better than my Italian.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I graduated myself in at the University of Lecce, south of Italy. Very nice university, and it has the name of a famous mathematic Italian, which is Ennio De Giorgi. Ennio De Giorgi was living in the era then John Nash was living also, and they were one against to the other, and they was both studying the 19 Hilbert problem and Ennio De Giorgi solved this problem 1 week before John Nash.
Ah, interesting. John
Yeah.
Nash, who from the famous movie A
Yes.
Brilliant Mind with
Yes.
Russell Crowe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then I performed my PhD at La Sapienza in Rome, and now I'm here.
And how did you get involved in this discovery?
Yes, I worked on radar and synthetic aperture radar for a lot of time. Radar
For the Italian military, right?
Yes,
Some work,
Yes, some
which you
work
can't
for-
really talk about.
No.
Right.
And I was involved in some research where, together with the Italian Research Council of Bari, always south of Italy, we was testing some special processing that were able to perform something special, and so this is.
So, this top secret research that you work on for the Italian government led you to try this stuff out, try this technology out. And this is satellite-based technology,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
And it's radio tomography?
Yes, it is something, in my personal opinion, very simple. The radar is installed on board on the satellite. The satellite flies in the space at a distance of 600 kilometers at 7 kilometers per second in velocity. So while it flies along the orbit, it is able to catch snapshots of the Earth. The snapshots has to be focused, and this focusing procedure, let's say it in the azimuth, I take it easy, in the azimuth direction, is done by sound, by the processing of sound, because it is involved at the so-called Doppler frequency. You know, Joe, when you hear noises that are approaching to you, this noise will raise the frequency because the target has a velocity, a positive velocity with respect to you. And so the frequency is raised up. And this procedure allow us to estimate or to grab, let's say, the vibration information that is always present at the surface of the Earth in terms of evanescent waves that are present on the surface of the Earth. So this vibration, which is mechanical vibration, carries inside of this the information that is located underground. And so we did this.
And was it a specific idea? Was it the idea specifically to look under the pyramids, or was this something that was discovered accidentally?
Okay, yes. Once we discovered this method, it was a coincidence that I knew Corrado Malanga. At that time, we are in 2018, he was studying the pyramids. And so we were talking about something that if there was some methods able to scan inside the pyramids, because he needed some information to conclude the research that he was doing. And so I proposed him to use my technique, and we started to work together, and so we focused in that time on the pyramids.
And when was this? When was the first scans?
Yes, in 2019.
In 2019.
Yeah.
And when you got the data back, did you immediately get the data that you're showing today, where you see the columns with the coils around it?
Okay. Let's say that this research can be divided by two. The first one, 1.0, we were concentrating research on the Khnum Khufu pyramid, the Cheops pyramid, to watch inside the pyramid. And so we have tailored our processing to watch only inside the pyramids, because that pyramid, only one pyramid, because we were doing that kind of research. Then once we discovered things in 2020 we published a peer review paper, and we gave public the results that we found inside the Khnum Khufu pyramid. We decided to expand our research in all the Giza plateau.
Can I stop you there? When you looked into, so we know quite a bit about the Khufu pyramid and what the chambers are inside of it. Did this technology accurately describe the pyramid itself and the insides of it, the chambers that we know exist?
Absolutely yes, because we have detected this multi-layer structure that is inside the Khnum Khufu pyramid, the so-called Z. We have discovered it very well from the space, and it is located inside the pyramid. And also we discovered the new, we gave an image also of the other known structures like the Grand Gallery.
The Grand Gallery.
The Grand Gallery. And then also the Queen's Chamber and the King's Chamber also. So.
And accurate in terms of size and dimension.
And also position and location.
Okay. So when did you decide to focus below the pyramid?
Yes. We decided to focus below the pyramid because our intention was to expand our research. And then also thanks to the third component of the research group, which is Armando May, he suggests us to expand our research and scan all the Giza plateau. Yeah.
And so what date was it that you discovered these immense columns with the coils around it and all those structures that are underneath the pyramid?
Yes. In the second part of our research, we started focusing our scans on the Khafre pyramid and like Khnum Khufu. And then we adjust our algorithms to go deeper. And so when we did this, very nice things began to appear on our results.
What did you feel when you first saw those images that do appear to be immense columns? I believe the diameter is 20 meters.
20 meters.
So they're huge, enormous columns.
Yes.
What went through your mind?
Skepticism. I told also Corrado was with me because we had those results in our desk without disclosure or anything for 6 months, because my opinion was that was not real. I was thinking that maybe it was noise or some artifacts due by our processing procedures.
Did it give you pause at all that they were so uniform, that these columns were in very specific places and that they lined up, there was a uniform gap in between them?
Yes. And why we disclosure this? Because we started to use also other satellites. And once we, at the beginning, we were using only the Italian satellite system it is Cosmos Skymed, and Cosmos Skymed second generation. It's very good, very precise. But we wanted to shift our research using also other satellites because, Joe, in research, when we have diversity is a good thing because it confirms other things that we were searching. We were searching confirmation. So once we had the same results while we was using American satellites called Capella Space and also other satellites, having always the same results, we decided to disclosure.
How many different scans have been done on this area?
200 or 300, more than 200.
More than 200, and all with uniform results?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
There's a lot of resistance to this, and it's from the usual characters. And it's from people that I would characterize as gatekeepers of archaeological information. And unfortunately, they are not willing to approach this with an open mind. And you see this skepticism that just seems to me to be confirmation bias. They want this to not be true, regardless of the sheer number of scans and the uniformity of the results of these scans. And also the fact that this stuff has been proven to work on other things. Like, didn't you guys use this exact technology to get the exact dimensions of a particle collider that you have?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have a particle collider where I have born in L'Aquila, which is located in the center of Italy, at the center of Italy. There is a huge mountain called Gran Sasso, the Gran Sasso d'Italia, which is has a maximum altitude of about 3,000 meters, for being precise, 2,993 meters. And so there is a tunnel, very long tunnel, about 11, 12 kilometers, and in the core of this mountain there is a particle collider. There is a laboratory, let's say like that.
And this technology got the exact dimensions of this particle collider that's
Absolutely,
deep
yes.
in this mountain.
Yes,
Okay.
at a 1.4 kilometers with respect to the top.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So we know it's accurate. We know it works.
Yes.
What do you think it is? I mean, other than what I said, that it's gatekeepers of archaeological information. It's people that don't want to admit that there's perhaps quite a bit bigger mystery than just the pyramids themselves. What do you think it is that is causing this resistance?
Personally, it's true. We found a lot of resistance. Yes, it's true. But personally, I don't know why. I can say something regarding to my personal opinion. Joe, it is something that maybe is too big, too huge to be disclosed like that today. I don't know why.
It's confusing to people because
Yes.
it's essentially paradigm shattering, because the pyramids themselves are absolutely spectacular. The Great Pyramid is 2,300,000 stones.
Yeah.
The alignment is to perfect, true north, south, east, and west. It's a really incredible accomplishment, whoever built it and when they built it. It's just undeniably fascinating that this was done at the very least 2,500 BC, probably even older than that.
Older, yeah.
We really don't know. But that alone is spectacular. But then when you add the findings that you have, it just makes everybody go, we don't know anything. We really don't. We know that these things exist, but their purpose has always been speculative. The speculation was that it is some sort of a tomb. But that doesn't make any sense because there's no hieroglyphs inside of it. It doesn't seem like a tomb. It doesn't look like a tomb. And I'm sure you're aware of Christopher Dunn's work.
Yes.
Which, he's an engineer, and he said it appears that this thing is some sort of a mechanical thing, and that it's probably designed to generate some kind of power.
Yeah. Yes, in this context, I have spoke a lot with Christopher Dunn, and I like a lot his theory, and it makes sense, and so this discoveries matches a lot with his and also to other scientists that make recast the effective purpose of the pyramid not to be tombs. So today we are sure of one thing, that the pyramids are not tombs.
Let's go to the pyramid itself. So you have a very fascinating hypothesis as to what the pyramid, or theory, as to what the pyramid actually was. And it's based on where the supposed king's chamber is, where those passages go through into it. And what do you think that thing was?
Well, my first book pretty much describes what I thought it was in 1998, which was a power plant. The book is entitled The Giza Power Plant. My second book has evolved, and I describe it as an electron harvester. So, it's kind of like, You could describe it as both, but in today, when you do, or people in any decade, they think of a power plant and they see these huge chimneys with smokestacks
Or a
and
nuke plant.
Yeah, or a new plant. A power plant, dirty, nasty, unclean. But an electron harvester, clean, pollution-free, not a problem.
Has that been achieved conventionally? I mean, today? Is there a thing called an electron harvester?
I think that actually, when you look at a generator, that's an electron harvester because we don't create electrons. We just harvest them. It's just how we do it. And so, when you say an electron harvester, you could say that, say a wind generator. You have a windmill. You have a generator inside it, and then you're collecting electrons off the commutator in a generator.
And that's where the electricity comes from.
And that's your electricity.
Right. Or hydroelectric, you'd use the flow of the water.
Yeah, you don't create you just release them.
You harvest it from a process.
You harvest them through a process.
And the process that you think they used in the Great Pyramid involved those shafts?
It involves a lot of things. Yeah, it's not just one single thing. It's a system, not a single thing. So when you look
Can we show a photo of that? Do we have a photo of the pyramids and the shafts and where the King's Chamber is? I know you've described this before.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a photo of?
I do. It's in the.
I was trying to figure out which one you wanted.
Okay, this is perfect. This works.
Yeah, that works.
So these names, the King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber, you don't think that that's actually a King's Chamber or a Queen's Chamber? You think it's something else?
Well, out of respect to the Egyptians, I
call it what they say.
Call them. Yeah.
Okay.
But I do have a different terminology for them as they function.
Now, the initial surface of the Great Pyramid is covered in smooth limestone, right? So it's polished and shiny, and apparently it would collect insane amounts of light.
The outer surface of the Great Pyramid mostly is missing, and,
right?
But it has been described as if it was finished, and depending on the polish that it received, yeah, it could reflect a lot of light.
Do you think that had something to do with the design of this power plant?
I don't think there's any part of that pyramid that did not serve a practical function.
Okay, so this is the image that you have here, and what this image shows us is the King's Chamber, the various shafts, the southern shaft, the northern shaft, and these shafts have been described as portals to stars because people have looked up through there, and you go through the shaft, you see stars. But what you're saying is something entirely different. What do you think these shafts were for?
Well, I think they serve two different purposes. Actually, four different purposes, if you will, because in the theory that I propose, which is, I don't know, it's a speculation, a theory. It's more, the whole process is kind of like a heuristic process where you're grabbing information, you're moving here. Doesn't matter what source you're getting it from,
right?
Because when you are looking for answers, you look everywhere. You try and find, you look everywhere. So when I was going through the process of trying to figure it out, I was collecting information from everywhere. And one of for the southern shaft and the northern shaft of the Queen's Chamber, that was a huge mystery to me, and I tried to fit it into what were they doing? I mean, if you look at the details, the facts of their design and what the ancient Egyptians were doing, why they designed them that way, you have two conduits coming into a chamber, but they're not connected to the chamber. And we didn't even know they existed until 1872 or Wayman Dixon.
Can you show me that image again, please? So they're coming into the chamber, but they don't enter into the chamber. So they stop.
Their original design had them the shafts ending 5 inches before coming into the chamber. So you had like 5 inches of limestone that was left in the block.
So did someone remove that limestone?
Yes.
Why did they do that?
Wayman Dixon, because they were examining the chamber and they were poking around. And Wayman Dixon, it is reported, so the legend goes, noticed a crack in the wall. And so he took a rod and pushed it through the crack. And the rod, it didn't meet any resistance. It kept going. So he had his worker come in, Bill Grundy, with a hammer and chisel, and say, chisel the limestone around that.
God, people are stupid. So,
well, they did. Yeah, they didn't have ultrasonic thickness tests.
No, but still, God damn, to have the arrogance to go and chip away at the pyramid because you're curious.
Look at how advanced. You know, I don't care for revisionist historians because, you know, you have to consider what people were doing, their mindset in the day. And then I try to look at on the bright side, right? It's like, I don't look at it as a negative thing because if somebody hadn't opened up those shafts, we wouldn't know about them.
Right.
And it's the same with the chambers above the King's Chamber. Without Howard Vyse and his military expedition blasting his way up into the pyramid, we wouldn't know about them either. You won't be. I mean, there's a lot there. I think there's a lot there right now, and it's being investigated now. But there's things that have been revealed through scanning, like muography, the Scan Pyramid Project. And they found that large void above the Grand Gallery.
Right.
And so, you know.
Which is larger than the King's Chamber, right?
It's longer than the King's Chamber, yeah.
And so is that's not even represented here on this?
It's about the size of the cabin on a Boeing 707.
Wow. So if these shafts came through and then they met limestone at the end, what do you think was going on?
In order to answer that question, I had to look at the rest of the pyramid. Okay, what was it doing, and how was it functioning? And so one of the key pieces of evidence that I used to propose a process that was going on is the northern shaft. And the northern shaft has dimensions and has an appearance that is similar to a waveguide that you would use for microwaves. And the dimensions of it would approximate the wavelength of hydrogen.
So explain a waveguide. How does that work?
Yeah, it's like a waveguide is to transmit microwaves, electromagnetic energy, you know, in the microwave region, and it is passed more efficiently through like a tube or waveguide, and that's what they use. I mean, they're very complicated systems, you know.
And so how did this represent, in your mind, what a waveguide looks like?
Actually, you know, the idea of a waveguide came to me from a guy. We were talking about the pyramids, and I used to carry a, you know, schematic of the Great Pyramid in my back pocket, and I meet an engineer, and I go, hey, come here. I start going through. So what do you think about this? Because, you know, I was looking for answers, suggestions, brainstorming, anything, right? And it's like, so anyway, these shafts right here, and he looks at it, and he was into electronic engineering, and he's like, they look like waveguides to me. And I thought, well, that's interesting. They look like waveguides. Okay. what if they are waveguides? How did they function? I mean, what were they used
Right.
for? What were they using waveguides for in ancient Egypt? And so I started to go down that rabbit hole, and that led me to the Queen's Chamber. I say, okay, waveguides. You need a medium. You need microwaves to go through a waveguide. What frequency of microwave was it, right? And you look at the dimensions, and you come up with a match for hydrogen. Oh,
How do you do that? How do you come up with a match for hydrogen through the dimensions?
yeah. The wavelength of hydrogen is 8.309 inches, and the width of the northern shaft is 8.4 inches. And a waveguide generally has the wavelength and then about half of the wavelength in height. So it's a rectangular shaft.
Just like all the shafts are.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Queen's Chamber shaft is a little more square than the King's Chamber shaft.
So it had a different function.
Different function, yeah.
So these waveguides, you believe, what are they collecting, and where are they getting it from?
Good question, Joe. They had we are bombarded with microwaves every day. I mean, it's the signal from, they say, the Big Bang, and there's it comes from atomic hydrogen out in the universe, in outer space. But
So we're being bombarded, and you believe that these
We're bombarded.
passages
So-
were collecting this.
yeah. So anyway, so then you say, okay, if we build a device and we say, and we want to energize hydrogen, we bring it to a higher energy state, and just like in a laser, where you have microwave amplification through stimulated emission, right? So if we want to collect energy that is in a gaseous medium, say that is hydrogen medium, and the electrons in the hydrogen are pumped up to a higher energy state, and we want to collect the energy in that, introduce a microwave signal, direct it through that gas, and stimulate the emission of the energy, collect that energy, and shoot it up the southern shaft. And so that was like, okay, that might work.
So what kind of gas?
Hydrogen.
And so where are you getting the hydrogen from?
Queen's Chamber.
So there's hydrogen in the Queen's Chamber, and how does it get in there?
The shafts. But it doesn't come in as hydrogen. That's a part of the theory in the Giza power plant was there are two chemicals that are introduced into the chamber, and the chemicals mix and they boil off hydrogen.
And these chemicals are just coming from the radioactive waves of space?
No. The chemicals, I believe, are manufactured and delivered to those shafts and coming.
Okay.
Right.
So they add some sort of chemicals
Right.
to it